Donald Trump sat down with Canada and Mexico and he renegotiated the deal that he now is claiming is the worst deal ever. What is he talking about?
This is his rhetoric, and everybody knows his rhetoric.
So I do think there are valid issues. Now, we can disagree on how we're doing it.
The trade war with Canada happened under other administrations.
It's been specifically with dairy. We have been dealing with the dairy issue.
It's been happening under Donald Trump.
The timing is bad.
The timing makes no sense. The rationale makes no sense. And Canada is totally playing Donald Trump.
Let me ask you again. Is it working?
You keep trying to rephrase what's going on. We're in a serious point of national security.
The leg to stand on with some of the economic plans, and there are serious problems with what's going on the other side of the aisle. But if you have this tariff nonsense, then you can't defend anything.
Guys, recently on Abby Phillip Show, MAGA pundits got utterly humiliated trying to defend Trump's unnecessary trade war with Canada, and it was almost painful to watch. Abby and these progressives on the show fact-checked these MAGA supporters so hard that they were folded into complete silence. And honestly, it only gets messier from here, because the actual economic policy of the Trump administration is somehow even harder to defend than the spin. Now, let me play some clips from the show. I'll break it down as we go. And if you like these breakdowns, please subscribe to the channel.
Tonight, in the escalating trade war between the United States and Canada, the gloves are officially off, and Canada is refusing to back down. This morning, Donald Trump announced that the United States was considering renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America. He posted an image of the map with the original name crossed out and the new words spelled out in gold. Canada's Minister of Industry is having none of it.
We'll always call it Lake Ontario. Period. I really think that while all these shenanigans are happening, we'll just be smart and we'll be strategic and we'll fight back.
After threatening to increase tariffs on Canadian cars, trucks, automotive parts, and steel to 50% beginning on January 1st, 2027, Trump has ramped up the insults today, declaring Canada entitled and unreasonable. Trump said that Canada has been ripping off the U.S. for decades, arguing Canadian trade practices have driven U.S. companies out of business. Now, you'll recall that Trump negotiated the USMCA. That's the current agreement that governs trade between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Here is him celebrating that deal back in 2020.
The USMCA is the fairest, most balanced, and beneficial trade agreement we have ever signed into law. It's the best agreement we've ever made, and we have others coming.
How quickly we forget, apparently. Lauren, how does the president justify picking this particular fight at the worst possible moment, even if you just look at it from the perspective of Republicans?
I really don't understand this. I mean, look, if you're a real conservative, I don't know how you can defend these tariffs. I mean, everyone from Milton Friedman to Reagan to every serious economist on the right side of the aisle really abhors tariffs. And it's just such a self-own besides that. I mean, this is our closest trading partner. The steel tariffs make no sense. He's invoking a national security issue, which is why the Supreme Court decision doesn't apply here. But our steel industry is 7 times what they have. I mean, I don't understand the economics. I don't understand the politics. It is a sheer miracle that the economy is performing as well as it is right now. It is only because productivity is so high with American ingenuity and AI that it is keeping inflation at bay. Yeah. You know, it is the reason why unemployment is, you know, it's 1/10 of a percentage point higher than what Biden had, but it's basically the same. Inflation's 1 point higher than what Biden had. You know, we have economic metrics that should be so much better, and Trump is just shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point that it's almost like it's masking how bad this could have been.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Had we not had basically AI driving one sector of the economy all the way up, and everybody else is just sort of stagnating. But to the question of why is Trump doing this, there's a part of me that thinks that this has to do with just his obsession with Canada as not being part of the United States. The White House had a press release today, and they said, President Trump said it best, quote, Canada is easily the most difficult and unreasonable. They feel entitled, but they are not a state and will be entitled no longer. they are not a state. They're a country. They're a sovereign nation. I don't understand why Trump doesn't understand that.
Orange man bad? Is that what we're hearing right now? Again, I will repeat that there are broader issues at stake. Have we heard of Elbridge Colby? He is the Undersecretary of War at the Department of War and for policy. And he has been leading since January the effort to force Canada to increase their military actions.
How's that going for Elbridge Colby?
And I have brought...
how's that going for them? Canadians right now are dug in. 76% say that Canada did the right thing by refusing the terms that the Trump administration put on the table in ending negotiations. 69% said that Mark Carney showed strength by refusing to accept Trump's terms. He is hardening the back. If Canada is an opponent in this, he's hardening the back of his opponents in this conflict.
Guys, let's talk about what's actually happening here, because the framing matters. Trump is currently waging an economic war against Canada. Not North Korea, not some rogue state, but Canada, our loyal neighbor, our best ally, and one of the biggest trading partners the United States has, period. We're not talking about a few $billion here. We're talking about a trade relationship worth over $700 billion every single year, covering everything from lumber to energy to cars to dairy, literally everything. And Trump's answer to any friction in that relationship is apparently to nuke it from orbit with tariffs and insults. And here's the most interesting part. Donald Trump is the guy who negotiated the USMCA back in his first term. It was a replacement for NAFTA, and at that time, his whole administration was out there popping drinks, calling it the greatest trade deal ever signed. Now, quite surprisingly, a few years later, he's acting like Canada is robbing America and something drastic needs to happen immediately. Wait a minute, so which is it? Was the deal great or was it a disaster? Because you can't have it both ways, and MAGA would sure seem to be struggling to defend that. Secondly, guys, there's the actual mechanics of tariffs, which somehow never get explained honestly. A tariff isn't some magic wand that penalizes a foreign country and leaves Americans completely untouched. It's a tax. It gets paid by importers, and it trickles down through the supply chain and lands on regular consumers. Cars are the worst example because North American auto manufacturing works across borders. A single vehicle can have parts crossing back and forth across the border 6 or 7 times before it's finished. So when Trump threatens to impose a 50% tariff on Canadian vehicles and parts, he's not punishing Canada. He's punishing Detroit. He's punishing Michigan workers. He's punishing every American who wants to buy a truck without paying extra. And you know what? Canada isn't just going to sit there and take it either. They can retaliate. They have retaliated in the past, and thanks to Trump's tariff policy, American manufacturers, farmers, and exporters are getting caught in the crossfire that did not even need to exist in the first place. That's not strength. That's not America first. That's America paying more for no clear reason, while the guy in charge tells you it's actually genius and you can trust him.
But the reality is that Canada should not be an opponent. Canada is an ally of the United States.
Canada is not only an ally, and at a time when costs are going up and all that people care about is the economy, is this move will likely make costs go up even more for Americans. And you've seen the auto industry. They have said that this is terrible for the industry already as it is. And so it seems like at every move, I'm sorry to the Republicans at this table, but it does seem like Donald Trump is trying to sabotage the midterm elections. I kept on saying that a few months ago, but every day we get closer to the midterms. He does something to hurt the economy. He does something to put us in a position that we are less safe. Every single turning point between now and the election, he is making it worse for Americans.
It is hard.
It's hard to be a Republican.
So I do think it is worth mentioning. There are two separate angles, I think, to this. The timing, I agree with you. I don't understand specifically outside of maybe the thinking is I'm standing up for the United States. I'm going up against Canada, and it's going to rile up my base, and they're going to come. I don't think that's a very good strategy, but it's a strategy. But the reality is, specifically on dairy and even on wine, these are not issues that just started with Donald Trump. These have been issues that have plagued the Biden administration. Trump won and the Obama administration, especially around dairy and the special treatment that the EU is getting. So I do think there are valid issues. Now, we can disagree on how we're doing it.
The trade war with Canada happened under other administrations.
It's been specifically with dairy. We have been dealing with the dairy issue.
Has been happening under Donald Trump.
So you're dismissing the fact that we have been arguing with them.
I am saying that there is no one that is along with our allies.
We're not talking about dairy.
Because we've like rational, normal.
Well, they were
people.
negotiating like rational, normal people.
Why can't
they came really close.
like rational, normal people? Why does everything always have to devolve into some sort of one-upmanship standoff that ultimately hurts both sides and hurts the United States? I mean, look, the Wall Street Journal editorial board said Trump is probably not serious. No doubt he understands that a 50% tariff would hurt U.S. automakers more than it would hurt Canada. Ford Motor Company CEO Jim Farley said last year that Trump's 25% emergency tariffs on Canada and Mexico would blow a hole in the United States' auto industry, and he was right. Regardless of whether Mr. Trump walks back from the tariff cliff, his whipsaw threats add uncertainty that chills investment. As is often the case, Trump is his own worst enemy on trade. Okay, look, again, there is a rational way to negotiate over dairy and wine with Canada or whoever else. Threats that Trump ultimately knows he has to back down on don't make any sense. And you know that, Jason.
I'm not suggesting that this was handled the right way.
Guys, here is where the MAGA defenders really start tripping over themselves because their justification keeps changing, which is hilarious. First, it was about the trade deficit, then it was wood, then steel, then dairy, then automobiles, and then national security somehow. Then they started talking about Canadian defense spending. At some point, you have to ask, does anybody from the Trump administration or from these MAGA defenders actually have a clear and consistent answer? Or are we just throwing darts at a board until something works and hoping nobody notices? Guys, here is the real thing about legitimate trade disputes. And yes, they exist. Canada does have its own policies American businesses have complained about for years, but normal countries negotiate these disputes quietly and professionally through diplomatic channels. They don't turn it into a reality TV showdown with public threats, giant tariff numbers, and, I kid you not, jokes about renaming a lake. Yeah, you heard that right. It actually happened. In the middle of a serious economic negotiation, we got a surprising detour into geography branding. You can't make this stuff up, and honestly, if a Democrat had pulled a stunt like that, Fox News would have run wall-to-wall coverage for a week, calling it an embarrassment. And this is exactly the kind of thing progressives on the panel kept circling back to, because the MAGA guests could explain what Trump supposedly wants, sure, but explaining a goal isn't the same as proving the plan works. So let's talk about that. So where's the payoff? Where are the cheaper cars Trump promised? Where's the manufacturing boom? Where's the certainty and confidence that businesses need to plan their investments for the next 5 or 10 years? Instead, what we've got is companies bracing for uncertainty over whatever tariff surprise drops next month. And honestly, it's because nobody, and I mean nobody, can predict the Trump administration's next move with any confidence. And you know what? Some of the criticism isn't just coming from the left. There are many traditional conservatives, the free market, small government types, who look at this tariff obsession and scratch their heads because tariffs are basically government price interference on steroids. That used to be the exact thing Republicans claim to hate. Now it's a campaign slogan for them. And it's quite funny to see how principles bend the second the Trump administration thinks there's a rally to win.
I'm simply saying there are actual issues that when we have these conversations, folks on the left completely dismiss and act as if they don't exist.
That's not true.
That is not
They
true.
do.
Has
anyone said at all during this entire debate as to whether or not there's a validity to some of
the way that Trump is
this?
handling it is the issue. Nobody is saying don't negotiate with Canada over trade. Presidents have been negotiating with our allies for decades. That's been happening.
Abby, for
but how Trump is doing it is the only issue at play
that
here.
Is not
because
true.
he's
that is not
chosen
true.
to do it in a way that is the most counterproductive.
Because the way we've done
under
it
the
hasn't
Obama
worked in his
administration,
view.
under
That's
the
why.
Trump administration, under the Biden administration,
excuse me,
we have demanded
for
that they
10 years
increase their defense spending.
Hold on a second.
We're talking about tariffs.
This is the reason for the tariff fight.
Horace, Donald Trump, don't forget, Donald Trump sat down with Canada and Mexico and he renegotiated the deal that he now is claiming is the worst deal ever. What is he talking about?
Canada
This is his rhetoric, and everybody knows his rhetoric.
negotiated
That's
it.
why
But he's the
I brought.
president of the
That's
United
why I
States.
brought
It's
5
style.
news stories that are both from Canada and from America,
But it is-
outlining over a 6-month period that the actual dispute is a demand that they increase their defense spending,
But it is
like the
rhetoric.
NATO
It's
agreement
rhetoric.
Abby's saying
requires.
he
You
could
got to
just
tell
say
me
that.
how this
He
is
could say
working for the administration. I want to.
It blew up because
hold on a
Canada
second.
refused
I want to
in private
understand.
meetings.
I want to understand. It's okay. You're telling me what their strategy is. I'm asking you, is it working? Is it working?
It blew up because they wouldn't do
Is
it
it
in
working?
private.
Is
This
it
is
working?
the point.
No.
And
Hold
by
on,
the way,
Horace,
there's
you're
a
not answering my
5
question.
There's a
Is it
5I
working?
program where
Horace.
all English-speaking countries
Horace.
participate in intelligence. This
You're
is the
talking-
next
you're
thing.
talking
about something
Listen, you're talking
completely
about
No, I'm
something
not.
completely
This
different.
is the next thing
Horace.
that's going to
5A.
blow up.
Let me
because
ask you
it's
again.
Serious.
Let me ask you again. Is it working?
You keep trying to rephrase what's going on. We're
I'm
in
just
a
asking
serious
you
point
if the thing
of
that
national
you're
security
claiming that this is
jeopardy.
a brilliant
I didn't say it was
negotiating
brilliant. I didn't say
strategy
anything
to
like
get
that. I
Canada
told you
to
that the
increase their
president
defense
uses
spending. And I'm
overblown
asking
rhetoric
you,
all the time.
What
I
what's
said
the proof
is
that we're
the-
getting closer to the outcome
I didn't
the
say that
administration
either.
wants?
What I said is this actual conflict is over their defense
right.
spending, which they refuse to
All right.
compromise.
Horace, you know, you don't have to just defend it indefinitely. You could just let it go.
As could you when I present you with the actual facts.
No, I'm just saying. You're sitting here and you're trying to argue that, oh, this is the real issue. But we're looking at the situation and everybody is asking, so what are we getting out of it? We're just getting higher prices for Americans?
We have
How does
spent
that- how does that
trillions
work?
Well, I think
defending
that's-
Canada
How does
That's
that
the
work?
point.
and
Is
their
there
national
Republicans
security.
actually have a leg to stand on with some of the economic plans, and there are serious problems with what's going on the other side of the aisle. But if you have this tariff nonsense, then you can't defend anything.
And Abby, we are less than 70 days away from the midterm. So
Yes,
to your
the
point,
timing
like
is
what
super
are we?
The timing is
the
bad.
timing makes no
Timing's bad.
sense.
Yeah.
The rationale makes no sense. And Canada is totally playing Donald Trump.
He's like,
I know. He's like, yeah.
Watch the 5 program.
Guys, let's talk about timing for a second because it is the worst possible time for the Trump administration. We're heading straight into the midterm election, and the smartest political move Trump could make right now would be to make the economy boring. Boring in the best possible way. You want American families feeling like grocery prices are stabilizing. You want small businesses in America talking about expansion instead of survival. You want American manufacturers making confident announcements about new plants. Instead, Trump keeps creating new economic problems every few weeks, and somehow expecting voters to thank him for that. And here's my favorite part, guys. These MAGA pundits fire up the excuse machine every single time one of these policies backfires. Prices go up? Don't worry, it's just a temporary thing. Businesses complain? Oh, they're just part of the establishment, ignore their concerns. Canada retaliates? That actually proves President Trump has them scared, obviously. Negotiations collapse entirely. That's the increasing pressure working exactly as planned. It's absolutely hilarious and ridiculous at the same time. But here's the part that isn't funny at all. At some point, guys, you have to judge a policy by what it actually delivers. Right now, what this trade war is delivering is complete uncertainty, higher costs, and a genuinely confused ally wondering why the United States picked a fight with the neighbor who's had its back for decades. I mean, real economic strength was never about who can slap the biggest tax on a friendly country. It's about whether working American families can actually afford the cost of everyday life. It's about whether American businesses can compete without guessing what policy chaos hits next. It's about whether the countries that have stood beside America for generations still actually want to continue working with us. Trump built his whole brand on the phrase America first. But if the end result is Americans paying more, allies turned into punching bags, and businesses left second-guessing every decision, then maybe the real question isn't about Canada at all. Maybe it's whether this was ever about America first or just about Trump needing a villain to point at before an election. That's it for today, guys. What do you think about Trump's trade war with Canada? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.